That is true. That's true. That's true.
Yeah. Fucking Barons back in 2005 was just fucking fantastic
Oh
as far as
man.
Chuck Norris jokes go.
I turned off my chat.
Yeah, flying
You
around.
missed out on quite a lot.
Oh, I saw enough that I turned it off because there was just so much of it, like every other minute.
That's what Baron Chats was good for. And when the servers all first launched back in Classic, as soon as you got to Barons, somebody started making Chuck Norris jokes.
Yeah, they did. They certainly did. Quick enough. Ugh, I do not miss it.
Shit, what was the number that we actually came to on that? It was like 104, like, no, it was like 170,000, right?
174,000. Or more specifically, 173,333.333. Based off the back of the napkin maths.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know for sure if that's the actual final number Blizzard stopped on, based on the fact that they nerfed it on PTR, and I haven't bothered to go look up what the actual things are.
Yeah. We can just wait for Journey. Then anybody else can just kind of flow in. I'll be right back. I'm actually going to grab like something to drink because I have a feeling I'm going to be talking a fair bit.
Good idea.
Hello.
Damn, tears going for 11,000. That's crazy. I'm just gonna soak this shit
Sheesh.
up.
Yep. All right. Everyone that signed up is here, so I'm just going to go ahead and get started. So what I'm going to do is I'm basically just going to go over a few things that everyone had talked about as far as like very general stuff. And then Earman has some pretty general stuff. Earman, do you want me to go over that, or do you think you can speak to
Yeah,
that?
yeah. You go for it. Unless you want me to.
I'll go for it, and then you just jump in if there's anything I miss.
Perfect.
And then with any time that we have left, we're going to talk about hard mode adaptations for the coming week. Aqua has decided we're going to try a few uh, hard mode attempts on some bosses this week, so I just want to go over a few of the things that we're going to have to do differently. And with whatever time we have left over, there's a fair bit of notes over individual bosses, and then with any time like that left over, we can talk about like more nitty gritty things like individual performance and stuff like that. But for the first week, I just really want to go over the broad strokes. So the first thing I have pulled up is our pull on the cat lady. This pull is actually pretty clean in hindsight, but the first pull, which is a wipe, which is the like real example that I wanted to make, my point of view was hot garbage. I was just looking inside of Tauren bodies. So one thing just I want to bring up, and this will be super quick as far as uh, how much time I'm going to spend on it, because I don't think she has a hard mode. I don't think there's any loot that really matters off of her for too many people. So, but I'm just noticing that on both of our polls, we had some people go just a tad early on the AoE. Now you see me loading up with living bombs, but those tick for like 1,000 to tick if they crit, so it's just not really a ton. Um, and a quick little rewind, you notice that it goes from Pants to Kiesler.
Yeah, it went quick.
Yep, and they basically get one shot. And then it jumps off of Kroken to Meows's real quick, and then Meows's is dead. And that's 3 dead.
Yeah.
Um,
Need to miss AoE at the start, that's for sure.
yeah, like whatever you got to do to make that a little bit smoother of an initial pull. That's basically it.
Yeah.
Um, reason why I bring it up is because in our first pull, more people did that. And what that meant is later when the Sonic Screech comes out, not here, but here, almost. When Sonic Screech comes out, that's fewer people to soak it because it's kind of like a meteor. Um, notice how everybody's health here gets chunked to like half, with a few exceptions. So like when 8 people went down, that half turns to a quarter, and that's a lot harder to top off. And that could lead to like a feral defender pouncing and killing somebody on this sphere, right? So didn't want to like harp on it too much, but just something for anyone that's an AoE class to pay attention to before going nuts with the AoE. Make sure that you give tanks a little bit more time. Reason why I'm bringing that up is this is a very simple fight with hard modes. We're going to see more of this kind of concept of cascading failure. Like a little mistake can lead to a big mistake, can lead to a wipe. So we just got to make sure we nail all the details. Does anyone have any questions about just that as a concept?
No, I mean, I would just say that like I'm all for like our tanks should be able to grab DPS,
Yeah.
early, but this particular pull is really bad, right? Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
yeah,
I gotta
single
remember
target here is probably fine. Just don't rip AOE right away.
Like you can hit the
Should
boss
we
pretty hard.
should we
Yeah.
give
Couple
3 seconds
notes from
before
a
going at the cats?
couple notes from a tanking perspective.
Mhm.
We're having to play that particular part very defensively. All of those cats stack a bleed. So if
Yeah.
they turn around and hit you, you're basically guaranteed to die because they stack a fucking terrible bleed.
Yeah.
Um,
When I
so
look,
you can watch early in the fight and you'll see me almost die twice because I had 4 stacks of the bleed on me and was taking 22,000 damage a second in bleed damage from having those cats being tanked.
yeah,
So
and when I looked at the logs, it was just the melee was killing anybody that was like basically everyone that got hit just got like meleeed and died. Like they didn't even like the bleed didn't even happen, but you can kind of see Aqua's health here. The title's not helping. Um, but Aqua is nearly dead right here in this pause. And then he gets filled, and he almost dies again. And he gets filled back up, and at this point, this is where we stabilize. So yeah.
yeah, that is the point where I put up my shield wall. So at that point, I was just started taking 50% less damage so that the healers could catch up.
So yeah, because the tanks are going so defensive, just got a single target, maybe hit just the boss for a little bit, and then get going. All right, that's all I had for that. Next
Yeah, for
one
me,
was, yeah, go ahead.
I was just say, yeah, for me, I was doing a little science myself with the demo form to see how much it was
Hmm.
going to take for me to pull everything since I have no threat reduction talents. And yeah, no, I that's why I have died on that first pull because with emulation flame and the shadow cleave and
Yeah,
the seed going off, it was just
yeah,
instant. So I definitely learned what not to do.
yeah. If you know that you have uh, like gentle things that you can put on the ads, it's fine. But I
Yeah,
wouldn't
there
open
is
up
no.
too
Yeah,
too
nope. I'm
crazy.
just gonna. Yeah, no, I'm just gonna
Yeah,
focus the boss till ads are controlled because I don't have
yeah,
gentle.
right.
Yeah.
So moving on from that, because I don't want to spend too much time on a boss that we're
Yeah,
really
you're
not going to
good.
struggle with. Um, Another thing that was brought up was like by multiple people was keeping comms clear. We were pretty chatty on Thursday. And I
I
get
think
it's
everyone was just
exciting.
excited.
Yeah, it's exciting. Um, but this is just another one of those things like that if we don't keep comms clear and someone's trying to shout over some other people who are talking for really important stuff, it could lead to, a cascading failure. So, um, however, we will try to keep it a little bit more clean on like what callouts are actually happening because the more people are talking, the more confusing it can get, and people can shut down and stop listening and miss stuff.
Yeah, and it's just knowing when, right? Like, pay
Hmm.
attention. It's like all for having fun, but like if we're in a
Yeah,
fight, stop unless you have to say something.
yeah,
Like you don't have to defend yourself on things. It's just
hmm yeah. And I'm actually going to go to not Flame of Leviathan, but XTD a little bit earlier than I expected because this is something that kind of brings me to my next point of uh, sometimes you just got to trust your own brain a little bit. And it's right here. So what we see is searing light gets put on Drac, and we said light goes right. Drac either he forgot because it's like the first pull, or he just it looked cleaner to go left. Whatever reason he went left here. And then the gravity bomb gets put on Kiesler. And Kiesler, you have a very good first instinct here. You break right because you saw searing light go left.
Yeah,
Yes.
I actually
As-
saw him rocket boots the other way. I was a little confused on what he
Yeah.
was doing, but I figured
Yeah.
somebody messed up.
As a raider, as someone who's been doing this for a long time in a caster position, sometimes you just got to trust your brain on this and like just double check to make sure that your brain's making the correct first decision. Because what you do is you correct and you go the direction that the call out and strategy called for, which that's fine. But like, let's think about how much time was spent. 1,000, 1,000, 1,000, 1,000, 1,000, 1,000, and like right around here is when you get to a point, right? So it's like been a solid 6 or 7 seconds. Your corruption might have fallen off in that amount of time, that
Yeah.
kind of thing.
Yeah. That can easily happen, especially
So,
with a. Yeah.
so yeah, back to that cascading failures thing. Like, if you see something go a little bit different and you have the awareness to make the adjustment, um, you don't need to make call outs, don't need to do anything, just trust your brain and go with it, and it'll probably end up working itself out. Um, so after those two, I'm just going to move into the stuff that Irma wanted to talk about, which is a little bit more of a generic thing or generic set of things. And let me get swapped over to the right screen here.
yeah. Do you have
Yep, I got it.
The
So
first one is just
the
is
first the first two
and
are
yeah, super
just
obvious. It's sorry. Do you want
yeah
to you doing
yeah
it?
yeah you're in a raid. I'll do this and you just jump in if I miss anything. But yeah, the first
Cool.
two are just real generic, like everyone who's an engineer should be using hyperspeed accelerators on cooldown as much as possible. And I'm guilty of only really focusing on doing this during bosses, but we should also be popping this stuff during trash. Faster we get through trash, faster we get to bosses. Faster we get to bosses, we get more pulls, we get more boss kills, more loot. Everyone wins. Pots, like the casters are real bad about it. We only had what am I counting? 2 casters doing more than 2 pots. I'm personally quite low. I didn't use pots very much. What are you pulling? Is this potion of speed or wild magic?
For a friction rocks, or because
No,
that's what we
Earman.
use. Oh,
Earman, what are you looking at for this? Is it just like potion usage in general?
Sorry about that. That is speed. So totally get
Okay.
it that some
Yeah.
people are pre-pulling.
Mhm.
It's tough. It's not calling out individual. Like I'm really low.
Yeah.
I can't pre-pot really.
Yeah.
I need speed up for when I do gargoyle. So
Right.
it's
And Crag and I are like when I'm arcane, we are not potioning in the middle of the fight. We're for speed. We're potioning for um, mana.
I
But
was say, did you want us to potion on trash, or is this just strictly for bosses?
this is for
just
bosses. Just
losses.
making
Okay.
sure that we get at least the two potions per pull on the bosses.
Yes, and I didn't pot much this week because I wasn't sure how bad mana issues were going to be with how much
Yeah.
longer the fights were going to be, so I didn't want to
Mhm.
waste a pot and then get stuck halfway
And then
through the fight and I'm out of mana doing nothing.
yeah, sitting on your thumb. Yeah, and that's like this is not like a everybody down here needs to do better. This is a hey, like just pay attention. Make sure next for the upcoming week we have a little bit better idea where our mana is going to be sitting. So if you can squeeze in a speed pot or a wild magic potion instead of the mana, go ahead.
should we before raids check to make sure everyone has some pots, like enough pots, like at least 20, maybe?
You need
That
at
should
least
be
20.
everyone's own
Yeah.
responsibility. We
Yeah,
can't
I know, but
micromanage
you know how
everybody.
people are.
Yeah,
They're literally like 8 gold apiece.
yeah.
So you've
And
had 3 years to farm gold.
I mean, they're 8 gold apiece. Dailies are 28 gold per daily, right? So even if you knock out one set of 25 a week, you're gonna have enough for potions.
Yeah.
So,
Hey, can I ask a question about that? Can you use a potion if you have a popped flask?
so can you use a potion if you?
If you have a flask on already, can you
Yes.
pop a
Yes.
speed
Yes.
potion?
Yes.
Oh, I
Yes.
never knew that.
Yes.
Yeah. So
I'm
you
not,
can.
don't do this, but I was just, I was
It's
Yeah.
curious from
the
a DPS standpoint.
elixirs
Okay.
that you can't use over flask. It's either you use an elixir or use a flask that you can't
Mhm.
have both of.
Right.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. Moving on, tricks of the trade. Um, honestly, like I know that since it's first week, everyone was trying to just focus on like getting the mechanics down. Um, week over week, we should be getting at the mechanics, and we should be getting uh, more tricks of the trades out. So it's just a thing to kind of keep top of mind as far as rogues are concerned. Um, tricks for the warlocks off the rip is really important, and then once again at 35%. So whoever is our assigned rogues for hitting the warlocks, they just need to make sure that at like pretty much as soon as possible, tricks a affliction warlock, and then at 35%, do it
Yeah.
again.
Let me chime in here. Like
Hmm.
tricks. What I think every rogue needs to understand is that tricks. It goes into its own. It's like its own raider in the logs. So it's really easy to see, who you're tricksing and how much damage goes to what. And I believe it goes to the rogue's parse, right? It doesn't go to the target's parse. So it's in your interest to put it on the best possible target.
Hmm. And it's in your interest to do it as much as possible.
Yeah. And so, yeah. And
Well, it's
so,
not a zero resource, right? It does cost energy.
yeah.
Hmm.
So, and the benefit to the raid is massively more than whatever energy it like costs you. So we have to do it. We have 3 affliction locks and 3 rogues. Like, find your rogue, like your affliction lock partner, and just plan on always doing, on pull and then execution phase to that same lock. And I think that you guys kind of have to organize that.
And
Yeah, I don't think this is capturing like because I know I didn't hit Geo every fight, but I know I was hitting it pre-fight, so I'm not sure if this caught it either.
It doesn't.
It's not gonna catch that 100%.
But
The
yeah,
other thing that's really
I didn't know
important.
about the 35% till some of the conversations this week.
Yeah. The other thing and this is not coming down on anybody, right? It's just like trying to show how we're getting at this stuff. The other thing is that affliction warlocks need to make sure that they are catching when they get tricks, right? Like if you are not watching for it and are kind of missing your corruption or overriding your corruption, then it's like such a loss, right? Like it's such a bummer. So it's a two-way street, right? You guys have to make sure that you're that you're using it right.
I'm pretty sure there's a weak aura that will tell you when you get it.
The weak aura will show you.
And I linked it right in there. So there's a bunch of weak auras for anything that's like a targeted buff. There's a weak aura where you can request it, and that person can click a button and give it to you, right? And so it's way easier, Locks, for you, because like for you to know when you hit 35% and you're about to reapply your corruption, to request it from a rogue. The challenge, rogues, is that you kind of need to make sure that you have a tricks off of cooldown when we get to 35%, and that takes a good amount of planning, right?
Yeah, and like it's gonna vary because as our kill times get faster and faster, those windows get more and more narrow, right? So.
Yeah. But it's the reasoning is right is that like that once you snapshot that corruption, like rogues, you're getting all of that damage for the entirety of the fight. Like that it's going to stay up. That original corruption is going to stay up from pull to 35%, and then if you reapply that tricks, it's going to stay up through execution phase. That's going to be multiplied by like 30 or 40% because they're probably going to get PI and they're probably going to use their execute. So you're getting even more damage out of it. So it's just an issue of scaling.
Yeah, and talking about externals for Journey, generally speaking, during execute, it's just going to go to an affliction warlock. Whoever's doing better the past couple of weeks is going to be the one that we're going to target. And then outside of that, whenever it's off cooldown and there's no lust rolling or about to roll, hit meowses.
Again, yep, and I get all that, but that's up to them to tell me when they
I know.
want it. I'm not going to watch their buffs or anything, but
Right, yeah.
everyone has that macro, and you tell me who the person is that's going to be whispering me for the night, and that's up to them to tell me when. If they don't want to make a macro, I say we move on to the next person.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not a hard macro to make to whisper to like /W journey PI me, like that's it. You just click that button. So if you get designated the person to receive PI, make sure that you are like hitting journey with that whisper when it's time every time that you can.
Yeah, and it tells me and them when we're out of range of each other too, so we can adjust and get it on them quickly.
Yeah.
So it's nice. It's helpful.
Yep. All right. So that's externals. We do have something on Unholy Frenzy. We should be trying to use it every pull. Looks like Earman has priority as Kitty, Rogue, Frosty K, or Kitty, then Rogue, then Frosty K / Hunter. Do you have any more you want to put in on that, Earman, for rationale? I know that there's some discussion about it.
No, it's the issue is that it's physical DPS only. So rogues do more damage, but it's from poison.
Okay.
Kitty is the most actual physical damage.
All right.
So it really should just go to cat. That's the most efficient use of it, unless you can get like it's a 3-minute cooldown, so you're unlikely to get 2 out per fight. So we really should just chain to Genie.
Okay. Well, all right. It's a 30-second buff. So it's possible that we could chain them if we have enough, but that it's blood only, right? So it's like
Yeah.
Toad Off. So like Toad Off is going to be the only one who can realistically spec into it and use it. There is a weak
Croaking
aura.
too. Real quick though,
Mm-hmm.
don't count on having 2 Death Knights with it during the fight because it's highly unlikely, based on on Thursday, that we're going to be running 3 tanks.
Okay.
So going forward, it's likely going to be
Just one.
1 to 2 tanks, 1 Blood DK, and I'm probably going to make Earman, or not Earman, but Totoff and Krogan swap back and forth.
Okay.
To keep them both in gear and both in practice.
All right, cool. Well, in that case, yeah, we'll just use these. We can use these weak auras to make it pretty simple. There might be some edits required, but not too bad. Here's the power infusion one. Do you want to open up the vision to this, or do you want Earman, or do you want me to just like copy
No,
this?
that's just the weak aura that
Mm-hmm.
they're like. There's a version of that weak aura for all of the buffing,
Okay.
tricks, Unholy Frenzy, and Power Infusion.
Mm-hmm.
So I just put it in there because that one seems to be a good one for PI. If you guys aren't familiar with weak auras or whatever, need help setting it up, I'm more than happy to help. But it's awesome for for requesting it and getting it exactly when you need it, right? And it really helps the healers focus on what they have to do and then hit you, when you need it.
All right. I'm just gonna post in the respective areas.
I'll get nature.
Yeah. All right. That's it. And PI XD. So now we're getting into like our more like nitty gritty stuff. So I'm actually going to swap back over to the footage and talk about some stuff for starting with the hard mode related stuff.
Sorry, I missed. What's the healer split on? Sorry, my bad. I'm doing Thorin.
The healer split? What?
No. Sorry, I'm in this raid. I'm trying to pay attention to something else.
Okay. All right, so let's start with Iron Council because it's the first one I'm going to encounter. So the 3 that we're going to try for hard modes is Iron Council, or there's like an actual term for it that Journey used. The actual name is Assembly of Iron, which is the 3 dudes. The primary adjustment is kill order. So we'll be killing the big guy last.
Shit. Sorry, my bad.
Yep. As far as strategies, there are going to be a few things that are going to be looking a little different because of it. We can still use this to kind of glean the relevant information. So for example, Brundir will probably be kited out farther earlier. But Aqua, do you have any particular information about like positioning of where the bosses are going to be, how that's going to look for a hard mode attempt?
It's going to depend completely on what the AoEs
And
have.
where, yeah.
And where shit is. Like,
yeah.
So the biggest thing with this fight is timing.
Right.
So for hard mode specifically, you always want to kill Rune Master second, just because which is X in this particular example. If we kill Rune Master second, we can time it to where as soon as he drops a fresh Rune of Power, we can immediately kill him and then get straight on to Steelbreaker, which is basically the only way you're going to beat that timer before he murders all of the tanks in the room.
A decent number of people took. Looks like they took the.
Yeah, his hard mode makes it to where
AoE.
you one shot the tank every time, right? No matter what.
He puts a debuff on the tank that increases the tank's damage by 200%, and then after 30 seconds, the tank explodes for like 50,000 damage. So the idea is you have 25 or more seconds of insane threat generation, at which point someone else is going to taunt off of you, and you're going to run away and die in a corner. And every time someone dies when Steelbreaker is the last boss alive, he gains 20% health unless he has a Mortal Strike debuff on him.
Yep. Another important thing, Affliction locks, make sure that you toggle off your Fell Hunter's Devour Magic ability, or whatever it is that purges. Because when we are doing this, we're going to be trying to get every little bit of DPS out as possible. And Rune Master puts up a shield that mages can spell steal. We tried spell stealing it on Thursday, but what ended up happening was the Fell Hunters were purging it basically before mages had a chance to steal it. So you'll just toggle that off for this fight.
Is it only this fight that
only this fight?
Toggled?
Yep. And it's literally because if we steal the shield, it allows us to do some cheaty things, like stand in a Rune of Death to soak the damage, and then once the bubble pops, we get something crazy like 200% more damage or something like that. It's kind of nuts. Rune Master Molgheim abilities. Another thing that was brought up because of the order. So when the rune fades, after we kill the first one, whether it's Brundir or Steelbreaker, depending on whether we're doing hard mode or not, when we're on Rune Master, he starts dropping the Rune of Death. It's not necessarily a big deal here, but we should, as casters, spread out a little bit. Once we are in phase 2, where we're targeting Rune Master, and the rune that was just up fades, and the reason why is to do with we don't want to all be standing in a spot where Rune of Death comes down, or rather where Rune of Power comes down, and then Rune of Death plops right on top of it. Or vice versa. So stacking here is fine. We get out quickly. Since the Rune of Death just came down, it's fine to move in here. This is just unfortunate timing with Overload being where it is. But like one could argue that we should probably pay a little bit closer attention to Rune of Death. And if the Rune of Power timer is longer than like 5 seconds, 6 seconds left, right? We should probably be trying to move out. This is the kind of thing that like it's going to be on a call out basis. So we once again we did a great job getting out. We didn't get this kickoff here. And because of that, he drops his Rune of Power right on top of Rundir again. And it's in the Rune of Death, right? So this is one of those cascading failure type things where it's like because we didn't get this kick immediately or as quickly as we could have, it led to Rune Master throwing the Rune of Power right on top of the Death Rune again. So this is just stuff to like think about and watch when you are looking at your DBM timers and trying to decide like, you know, what's the next thing that I need to be doing once you get your feet planted. You should always be thinking about the next thing that you're doing. Does anyone have any like questions or comments about that? Okay.
Are we going to adjust what we did on kicks? Because I think with me and Orc was overkill.
We are,
Yeah.
but we're also killing that boss first. So it is unlikely that we'll have really.
Gotcha. Yeah, makes sense.
Everybody's going to be there, so we won't really have to worry about kicks on that point.
And plus, we won't have to worry about the lightning whirl, which is the only thing he does when he's second or the second one to die.
Yeah, lightning whirl starts on his second, like
when
after
anyone
the
dies first.
Yeah. So since he's dying first, he won't be lightning whirling, which is good.
Yeah, he's very manageable when you kill him first.
Yeah. And then this is actually like almost a perfect timing just as it happens. He puts up that Rune of Power and he's at 150k. So if this were a hard mode pull, that would have been a very clean execution of that particular phase of the fight. Overload comes out, I'm sitting in it in my ice block. This is a lot of these mechanics are basically moot because we will be killing him first, not last. So I'm ready to move on to the next one if everybody else has. Does anyone else have questions? Okay. Next one that we're going to be doing is Thorum, as far as hard modes. So Thorum, the way that we get the hard mode is just like get through the bottom faster. I know that this week we sent like 5 people, maybe 6 or 7. One way that will remedy the speed of it all is just by sending more DPS down there.
Isn't it best to send range more than close combat?
Yeah, range
someone
over.
say that earlier.
Yeah, range does have some things that make it better. Range tends to have better AoE for the most part. And range just kind of avoids the cleaves by the nature of being ranged. So we'll go ahead and we'll pan forward because this is what the downstairs looks like. I don't know what the upstairs looks like, but
it's just the arena.
Yeah. So, a couple of quick notes. Oop, dang, didn't pause it in time. This guy in the back, if you get sit downstairs next week and it's your first week doing it, this guy in the back will telegraph which side he's gonna do.
No, we're falling behind. Shit, I'm sorry. I keep forgetting in this chat.
Yeah, no problem. I think ideally we try to one pull this room next week, but that's going to be on Kroken, whether he thinks that it's a feasible thing to do. We're going to see me fail a little bit here because I'm on callouts for the bottom. I think I'm just going to be in the practice of not calling out a switch unless we have to switch. Just to keep comms clear as possible. So we get switch, and for some reason I blink all the way in here. And what's bad about that is now I can't see the big guy in the back. and I kind of panic and immediately think about it, realizing, and I think I get Journey killed.
Oh, I should be watching. Not my finest moment.
So
I think that Meows's is a great one to mark.
yeah,
Very rarely is he ever in the wrong
he's
spot,
yeah,
and
and
I
you,
prefer
yeah,
to follow him.
yeah, and you'll
Plus, you can
also
see him.
right, yeah,
Even to death.
yeah, yeah, and you'll also notice that in the first few before we go into that corner there, you don't have to actually move that much. It's basically the center line and give it a buffer of a couple feet, but I think this center line is probably like this side is safe from the left, this side is safe from the right, like just this little bit. But if you want to just buffer it a little, just be safe, that's good. Make sure you get in the room.
There, how many groups are there? I forgot. Are there 3 or are there 6
Uh,
or 4? I mean, the
like
groups of 3.
I think it's just the 4 and then the 2 big guys. So it's 2 groups of 3 in this first room, and that's it. Right, this group and then this group. So I don't know how like much damage he was taking, how hard he was to heal, but I feel like we could potentially like just one pull that.
My only concern with that is the one tank, because I can't starfall with 6 targets. I'm gonna pull thread on one of them with it splashing everything and die.
Yeah.
Like if you notice this whole fight, I didn't starfall because I starfalled the first one and died.
Okay.
We may be changing that up. I'm gonna go through and look at some numbers, specifically on this fight to see, because if he's not taking much damage, I might make this one of the rare times we actually run 3 tanks and have him and Titoff take the arena, where I go down the gauntlet, because my AoE threat is going to be way higher than Krogan, where
Yeah.
I'm potentially going to be able to hold off that AoE starfall on 6 targets.
Yeah.
Yeah, I also respec into that talent, so shouldn't have as bad of threat issues this week. But it's still with that many targets together on a starfall, it's gonna do a lot of damage with the splashing in between.
I would also be able to give you a blessing or a hand of salvation, so that's going to help you quite a bit too.
Yeah. So there's another group of 4 there. And then there's like a dude here, a dude on the other side, yeah. And then the big guy, and then that's it. So realistically, I think that we could like one pull the big room in the front, get the second guy, or get the first big guy, open the door, pull a 4. Oh, this detonation makes you immobile, so everyone else has to run away from you. So if you see someone, so next week if you're in the gauntlet for the first time and you see someone get no detonation, just get away. It's surprisingly far. Like I think Callium got hit there, but the people around the pillar over here did not. I'm just gonna kind of track through this, and then once we kill him, you want to hug this left side as we approach Thorm. And depending on the timer, um, we might have time to get everybody set in the arena, or we might just have to go, because what'll happen is when we round this corner, there's going to be Saphir, I think is her name. It's going to be standing next to him, and that's what's going to engage the hard mode of the boss fight. Does anyone have any questions about the gauntlet portion of the fight?
No, but do you think that next week when we are running it again, could you have someone record up top? because I've never seen up top. I've been downstairs on both 25 and 10.
Yep. So Earman was recording up top.
Oh, okay.
He did not have his auto saved his
Did not
video.
have a button pushed. Yeah, we'll have it this
Okay.
week.
Yeah, that setting's
Good.
been saved, so we'll
Cool.
have top
When
and
you
bottom.
say up top, you mean just the arena, right?
Yeah, the arena.
Yeah, the arena is basically simple. Like when that room you walk into, it's just that people jump out of the stands. That's all that happens up there.
Yeah, 2 or 3 at a time.
hmm Yeah, but it would be nice to just
Nothing
like have
exciting.
something, have something to review in the event that there's like something that can be done better. Let's see. So that's the gauntlet portion. We lust here, and I'm gonna pause this and swap back over to Earman's guide. Because he looked through the logs and noticed something a little funky. So this is more or less where we were distributed for Thorm. Now, why is this necessarily bad? Because Thorum's Chain Lightning has like an unlimited number of bounces, and when we're clumped like this, we're getting an entire quadrant of people hit pretty consistently, right? So something that's been noted, melee should be doing something like a Kel'Thuzad stack where, every 10 yards we got a few melee and they're gonna get chain bounced off each other, but that kind of is what it is, nature of melee. Ranged, we should absolutely be more spread out.
Is there a range? Is there a range amount like we do on KT?
I want to say it's 10.
Okay. Maybe remind everybody of that.
Yeah.
We should know it, but just do a range 10 just like we do for KT.
Yep. This is something that Earman has been workshopping a little bit. This is basically just like having different quadrants. Not quadrants, but spaces to be thinking about like what section you're in, because it also tends to correspond pretty well with where the pillars are and the kind of things that get hit. Another reason why we might have been clumped up is this might have been like this section was getting lit up, and so everyone had to get out. So there's just a whole lot going on in this fight, and it's only going to get more involved in hard mode because there will be a blizzard. It's a good thing we all did the 10-man hard mode so that we all have like at least an idea of what 25 is going to look like. But right here, these things that look kind of like lightning bolts coming in, it is, in my opinion, it's taking uncomfortably long for people to react to that. Like, I understand closing off one cast, but I'm seeing a couple of people like do multiple casts before they move out. And because of that, like they didn't move out in time and took a pretty big splash of damage. So one thing that's nice about moving early here, we'll go back to this. If people move the moment that this comes up, you see me like constantly panning around here. Yep.
We're seeing your spreadsheet yet.
Oh my goodness, I have been talking about this and I got to swap back.
Okay.
All right. Okay. Let's just go back to the first one. So we get down, we lust, and then we see these lightning bolt looking things come through. This is your indicator of what section of the room is about to get hit. And it's like basically that entire quarter of the room is about to get hit.
What's that? Is it a pet trapped up in the corner there? What is that? Up in your mini map, showing someone
I
off the
feel a
map.
hunter.
That's
That's
probably me dead.
that might be a dead Jody.
No, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
Um,
Yeah,
but
I didn't know what those look, we were supposed to look for the first time. So
yeah, and I get it's like it's first time. People are all learning like what stuff looks like. But now that we do know what it looks like, I get that it's during Lust. I get that it sucks moving during Lust, but like it is what it is, and on hard mode, that thing absolutely slaps. And I think I count like four people here. Maybe no, I think that's an imp, but like four people right here got hit by it. No, five. This guy got hit too. Um, so now that we know what it looks like, we should be moving pretty much as soon as we see it, or at least making sure that we're in a safe spot. And the reason why we want to do that as soon as possible is because what will happen on hard mode, and what will cause a lot of unnecessary damage is everyone moves late, right? And now he does a chain lightning, and if he hits someone that just moved over, people that were once safe from the chain lightning don't have time to react, and then we get like wombo comboed, and we actually lost a couple of people out of that. You know what I mean? Uh, so yeah, just the sooner that you move out, the more time we have to make those range adjustments, right? To like make sure that we're not standing in each other's chain lightning range. Um, so that's basically all that I had as far as you know, making sure that we dodge as much damage as possible. Does anyone have any questions about like how melee should be handling it, or how?
I actually have a question on phase
Uh-huh.
1, and Aqua, maybe this is more for you since you were up there. On phase 1, does he throw something? What are you guys running from? What are you doing up there?
So there are ads that jump down out of the stands all around the room. So I'm moving around to pick those up. There is also a hammer that he will throw on one person. So you're supposed to take a kind of a loose spread so that you don't stun multiple people. But
Okay.
for the most part, you're just moving around to DPS the ads as they jump down.
Okay. Is there a range that they should be for the hammer also, or is that person, can they see that they're targeted and they need to run away? Does it follow them?
Kind of follows them. It's not been that huge of a deal, and phase 1 doesn't change with hard mode no matter what.
Okay.
So
Okay.
it's more of an inconvenience thing. Like if both of your healers up top were stacked on top of each other and they got hammered, well, that could potentially be a problem, but none of the ads really hit hard enough to make that a problem.
Okay. Got it.
With all the locks up there too, usually they're all AoE down by the time that anything happens.
Right, but they might be coming downstairs
Oh, okay.
Tuesday. If we need more range DPS down there to get through quicker.
Mhm. Okay. Anybody else?
Yeah, you said for hard mode there's a blizzard.
Mhm.
Is that
It's
about
like
it for hard mode or?
it's the shade of Iran blizzard.
There are a couple of extra mechanics on hard mode. So if you were paying attention on the Tin Man, there was Sif was down there, and she would kind of jump around like a mage. And as soon as she lands, what will happen is, or as soon as she stops, what will happen is she will actually root everyone. So the idea there is to go ahead and throw down a mass dispel just to get everyone out of those roots, or just use a blessing of freedom or whatever you have that can remove that, just to make sure you're not rooted in a place that's going to kill you. There's also the blizzard that goes around. She will do frost bolts on people. And I think there's a frostbolt AoE as well.
Yeah, I
Can
think
it
she
be
does a frostbolt
interrupted?
volley.
Yeah, she does a frostbolt volley, and she also frost novas.
I don't know if she can be interrupted because I don't know if she can be targeted.
You can't
She
target her.
cannot
She's
target it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You
So
just
yeah.
gotta ignore her.
I probably didn't notice the frost novas because like I would just instinctively blink out. To be honest with you.
No, that's
Yeah.
good though.
Yeah.
It's just the thing you watch out for there is that if you're frost nova in a blizzard, because that will most likely cause you to die.
Yeah.
I was more concerned of beating Frost Nova into the lightning AoE.
Also that.
Yeah, because all this stuff is going to hit hard enough to like be a problem to try to like either you die or it's going to be a lot of healing resources to top you back off. And as we saw in the hard modes in 10, like that's a lot of healing going on the tanks. So, all right. Any other questions about Thorm hard mode? All right. We're gonna move on. Am I showing you guys the video? I am. Okay. So now we're gonna move on to Freya hard mode. Uh, yeah, this is gonna be a big stinky one. So my very first note is don't be a DPS monkey like me and pop your cooldowns on pull, hitting Freya. There's absolutely no reason to do that. She gets healed up pretty much always, constantly. And then, like, for doing her hard mode, we are probably almost never going to be having real DPS on her. Took me a minute to realize the mushrooms were down and I needed to get to one. So I need to
For
get better at
targeting
that.
the boss, you could see she had 150 stacks of something. That what that is 300% extra healing. So she always has a heal on her. She always has a hot, but it's being multiplied by 300% at the start of the fight.
Yep. So yeah, she gets topped up so many different ways that like let's not blow cooldowns on her. If you want to blow cooldowns on that big guy at first, feel free, especially if you're a big single target. But this is what I want to really talk about. So hard mode, these detonating lashers. Let's see if I actually get some vision on them. These little guys, right? Range, we have this tendency to try to kite stuff. We need to not. Not until they get low, and then we will be getting like a Shadow Fury down, and then I think the hurricane, not the hurricane, but the typhoon comes out right there, and then that's when we want to blow them up. Um, so like I'm guilty of it. It's just like a knee-jerk reaction to things hitting you as ranged. Um, melee is probably a little bit more disciplined in this because if melee goes running away, then tank's got to run, and that moves the boss, and that's no fun. So what's the solution? The solution is to instead of being back here when these things come out, we need to do the opposite of what our like instincts tells us, and we need to move towards Freya. The reason why is because since these things will just fixate whoever, they can also fixate the tank, and the tank can't move. So instead of us being back here under these mushrooms, which are admittedly doing stuff, we need to be moving into Freya to get the AoE on everything guaranteed as much as possible. And then when the time comes, that is when we will see Xanderloo hitting him with a Shadow Fury. And, you know, like we can all. I don't know if these can be rooted. I need to check that. Looks like I tried to and it didn't work.
They weren't slowed by my typhoon, so I'm
Okay.
not sure they can be slowed at
So,
all.
so all that can happen is they can be stunned and knocked back. For this fight, I will be stocking up on Glyph of Blast Wave so that I can delete the Glyph while we're on this fight and then Glyph back into it for the rest of everything. That'll give us 2 knockbacks, so we should be fine with with getting those cleanly knocked away as they died to the little bits of damage and AoE that we have left. Once that knockback, like once you see that Shadow Fury happen, melee, you just need to get out. I know that that doesn't look amazing for parse, but until we really get it knocked out and hammered down to where we're executing this like really cleanly every time, you'll probably have to just be, away from the boss, not doing much.
When we do hard mode and the other guys are in, right? We're gonna have their abilities on top of it, right?
Some of them.
Yeah.
They don't add all of the abilities. You basically get the Sunbeam and you get the roots. You don't really get anything from the first one of the three.
What does the sunbeam look like? Because I didn't see that when we were fighting that boss either on the 10 or the 25. So I'm not sure if I'm missing a indicator there.
Was that the Sunbeam just then, or is that that's a new thing with hard mode, right?
Yeah, that's a new thing with hard mode. We're not.
The sunbeam would have been on the last of the sub boss.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. So the Sunbeam is like a beam of light that shines down, and there's like an unstable explosion or something that occurs.
Yeah.
And the way that it works is if you stand in the beam, you get a debuff, or actually you get a buff, and it makes you do more damage. But the more you stack that buff, the more that unstable explosion does to you. I would imagine that there's probably an optimal number.
So it doesn't stack the buff like this on hard mode.
Oh, it doesn't.
So no, it's just so.
Stand in beam.
Sunbeam. Freya will also gain the ability to summon a sunbeam at the location of 3 random players every 30 seconds that will pulse unstable energy, which is 5850 to 6150 damage every 1 second to enemies within 5 yards for 10 seconds.
Okay, so it's a whole different thing than what it
It's
is.
a whole different thing. Yep.
Okay, yeah. So it's like what the constructs in Sunwell, basically.
Yeah, essentially.
Beam of light.
So
don't stand in it.
yeah, so the hard modes specifically add extra damage, which is okay. That's not bad. Physical damage dealt by Freya 50%. Ground tremor ability, which is a AoE shockwave 8k damage, interrupts all spells. So if you didn't cancel the current cast in time, you'll be silenced for 8 seconds. It gets Iron Branch Essence, which increases physical damage dealt by the allies of nature by 50%. So that's all her adds that she summons. Also get the Iron Roots. The grip of the Iron Roots inflicts 6,000 to 7,000 nature damage every 2 seconds and roots the target until freed. So you just have to kill those. That's not too terrible. 3 random players every 5 minutes, or every 3 minutes. Sorry, 3 random players every minute. I swear I can talk. And then Bright Leaf's Essence, magic damage dealt by Freya and her allies of nature by 50%. So that increases the Sunbeam, which is why the Sunbeam now does a significant amount of damage. So it's 58 to 6100, and then you're multiplying that by 50%. So you're actually looking at like 8,000 to 9,000 damage a second. So
yeah. So yeah, it's gonna be one of those like probably another Kel'Thuzad style stack. I don't know how wide that beam is on the hard mode. It was not super wide. It was like only 1 player wide.
It's essentially what it is now.
Boss. Okay. So yeah, then for melee, I would imagine we don't want to do a Kel'Thuzad stack. We would just want them all kind of loosely spread around the boss until it's time to like kill ads, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, there's plenty of time to move around, but like if you watch any of the older videos on Freya hard mode, that is why they were dancing back and forth across the river, is because they would let the sunbeams come down and then they would just have everybody, including the boss, move across the river, and then they never had it.
Yeah, that would also be good because then no one's accidentally running into it for like ads. You don't have to worry about positioning ads around it. So yeah, probably a good call, just at least for progression anyway. That's all I had for the hard modes. Those are the 3 hard modes we're going to try this week. So it's going to be Iron Council, Thorum, and Freya. Did anyone have anything that they wanted to review on that? All right. It is 8 o'clock, and I know that I said like an hour is like all the time that I was like wanting people to like devote to it. We can go longer if you want. I do have some like miscellaneous stuff for individual bosses if we want to go like boss by boss to just talk about those. Um,
Say keep going.
Otherwise, okay. All right, so first one is Flame Leviathan. We did have like a bug, and I think we sussed out that it was um, basically if you are in the gunner position at the start, so not in the catapult, but in the gunner position of the Demolisher, you are not to load into the catapult until someone either calls for it, and that's it. Because what seems to have happened
I did.
is
Yeah, I
good.
did that bug. I caused that bug actually in this raid.
Yeah,
If you're a gunner and a demolisher and you get into the catapult,
you had to
either
get
get launched
flung.
or get out. Right? So you
Yeah.
can't be a gunner and then go into the catapult and then
Mhm.
go back out. You have to just jump out of the
So,
vehicle.
yeah, it appears as if once someone is in the catapult, that person needs to exit the vehicle one way or another before they can uh, do it again. So one thing that I also learned, if you are jumping off before these turrets die, you are risking dying. So we need to kill these turrets. The system shutdown happens. That's when it is safe to exit the vehicle.
It should also auto kick you from the top when they're all dead.
Yeah. Um, I know that
Shouldn't there
they're
be a
like,
bike to pick them up as soon as they jump off?
I mean, yeah, bikes should be, kind of be ready getting close. Noticed a couple bikes right by me, but I have blink up and I'm almost there. That's why I didn't bother hopping in. But for that, I damn near die here about it. So yeah. So that's really all I had for Flame Leviathan. There is a hard mode for Flame Leviathan, but until we start really hammering and nailing the mechanics on this boss, I don't think we have an announcement for when we're going to start doing hard mode pulls for Flame Levy. Anyone have questions about Flame Levy?
The easiest way to know when we're going to do hard modes on Flame Levy is when we run the risk of potentially having nothing to do on a Thursday.
Okay. So once we start one-nighting Ulduar consistently, that's when we'll start doing Flame Leviathan.
When we start getting close to it. Like if we're
Yeah.
getting a couple hard modes down and we're to the point where if we don't spend some time working on other ones, that we would end up just running out of things to do, that's when we're going to start targeting some of the more annoying hard modes and some of the achievements.
All right. All right. Next one is Razor Scale. First and foremost, you're going to see my raid buffs here. You're going to know something's missing. I did not flask. I forgot to flask between Flame Leviathan and Razor Scale. So that 5%, if you're like me and forgot to flask, Tuesday be part of the solution, I guess. Um, it's kind of an easy mistake to make if you're not flasking for Flame Leviathan because you're in a vehicle or whatever, and then there's no trash in between. But just a reminder to flask. I think we'll have one thrown up. Um, AoE. So, does anyone have any questions about Razor Scale before we like get into some of the more like detailed stuff? Okay.
Is there anything you're unsure of or any questions you want to ask about what we're doing or how we plan to handle this stupid fight?
All right. So this is probably when you want to pot right here. For anyone who wonders, there's no point in pre-potting, and this is when we lust. A journey for reference, because this phase lasts as long as lust or until we get it under 50% on the first pull. I wouldn't worry about PI, using PI until after we start one phasing this. And at that point, it becomes like a math problem of do we want to hold PI for execute or just like pop it off immediately.
Okay, that's up
Uh,
to them. Whatever y'all work out. I'm ready to
I
click the button.
I think I'm going to say that for Razor Scale, I'm very confident that we will get 5% more damage out on Tuesday. So I will determine an affliction lock, and they will be asking you for PI at 35% when they're getting ready to start spamming their Drain Soul. Does anyone have any question about this fight? It's like stupid easy, very simple. So I'm not going to spend a ton of time on it, but I did just want to like briefly go over it. And there's almost no point in like not stacking, right? I think we determined that. Like,
The stack at this point, she
yeah,
only puts the ground spot for melee to worry about,
yeah,
especially when the tanks are
yeah.
bored and
I guess what I'm getting at is like, don't worry about your positioning, you know? Just as long as you aren't in front of the boss, you're fine. So if you need to be all stacked up because that's just how it worked out for whatever reason, that's fine. Just keep your uptime. But I mean, we got the quick kill achievement on it, so I'm not really concerned about much on that. Ignis. Um, I want to say we're still going to be doing the mechanic for a little bit longer, right?
unless we get to the point where we're killing it before like 10 of the ads come out, like if it's my expectation is for us to improve our kill times and get it to the point where eventually we can start zerging it.
Yep. Because once we kind of unlock that, there's nothing really left to talk about on this boss. I think for Tuesday I will have assists so that I can mark the ads, um, and then call out which ads are ready to be pulled. Um, any Death Knight should be able to assist, or it's possible that there's going to be some communication involved with
So
making sure that happens.
a quick note on that is if a Death Knight does do it that's not a tank,
Hmm.
those things explode
Yeah.
pretty significantly when you blow them up. So like at the end of this fight, we blew up one before I could move the boss away from it, so a couple melee got hit by the explosion, and that's what killed people at the end of this.
Mm. Yeah. Arcane's like just perfectly suited to deal with this, so I think between me and Crag sitting over here, we should never really worry too much about uh, having a Frost Nova available and once it gets pulled in, Arcane Barrage takes care of it. Pretty much guaranteed if I have one Arcane Blast stack, and half the time if I don't, so it shouldn't be an issue. Did anyone have any questions about this fight? This fight's really straightforward. We killed it on PTR, so I'm not going to spend a ton of time on it.
Is there a way to? I know you're supposed to stop casting, but is there a way we can improve that? Because it seems like we get knocked up a ton.
No.
No, the knock up always happens.
Yeah, so he casts an ability, and
Called
that
flame
ability,
jets.
yeah, called Flame Jets, and it's literally like underneath everyone's feet, Flame Jets come up.
I was
It
trying to call
is,
it out most of the time. If anything, I'll just keep up on it more.
yeah, just, I mean, you called it out, I think, 100% on Thursday, so just keep that up. But yeah, just be watching for it. Just be watching for it. If you have any sort of instant cast proc, like so for an affliction lock, you guys have your instant shadow bolt proc, right? If there's any way that you can save that, feel free. But since early in the fight you're basically spamming shadow bolt, I don't know if there's much that you can do. You just gotta, I don't know. You can hit spacebar and that'll stop your casting, and then he'll knock us up, and then you won't be locked out, and then that's it. It's the whole fight.
Hey, in the pocket, I know I can heal. Are casters able to cast?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
great.
I went in the pocket and didn't want to uh, risk you guys like going nuts. Is healing kind of easy breezy on this fight for the most part?
We'll take care of it.
Okay.
I mean, if you die, it's just because we got knocked up and I couldn't get a bubble on you or heals quick enough. But we have a shaman and myself assigned to whoever's in the hot pocket.
Okay. Because I got in the hot pocket and just ice blocked. So that's just my instinct there. I think what percent do you think would be a good percent to just like stop on constructs and just start hitting boss?
20%.
20%? Okay. Because I noticed we didn't really make that call until 5, and that's like,
Yeah.
that's a lot of missed opportunity.
Well, there's a lot of missed opportunity on this fight just because we didn't even bother to lust on time.
True. Was it first knockup is when we want to lust, or is that kind of too late? Because I feel like we're going to get a knockup in there and it, like all the time.
Why not pull?
There's about 10 seconds of
Because
moving the
they're
boss on
walking it
pull.
back.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, once trinkets proc and all that stuff, right? So like after pull and he's positioned.
Well,
Flame jets, I think, come soon after
it's
that.
it's a
'Cause it's
flame
like,
jet. It's a flame jet timing thing, and if
yeah,
people
but think
are
about, think of that like greatness is going to proc first hit, right? So it's like, do you want lust with greatness and all the trinket procs, or do you want it
Must be
solo?
nice.
Yeah, I mean, I don't just mean like mine, right? I mean like everybody has some kind of procking trinket.
right, so let's count it out. So see, activate construct and then flame jets are like right after each other, right? So we would be lusting here. And there's a decent amount of time. We could do it once it's positioned.
I would say either that or one minute in, because you could like cycle your trinkets and put them on cooldown.
So that
So
flame
it comes
jets
up a minute
happened.
in. What if you did it a minute in?
Yeah. So let's see. So that flame jets happened about 30 seconds into the fight, and he's here and ready for us to lust, 15 seconds in. So we'd have 15 seconds, which would be the duration, or at least a lot of the duration for a lot of trinkets. As you can see, my trinkets are nearly done anyway. Because here's one, here's the other. There's only 6 seconds left. So like lusting on that, I don't know. So maybe a minute in is better. And then where is the minute mark at that point? I think we have like 3 casts of the flame jets. There's the first one.
Yeah, I mean it's
And
not
then
hard to Zerg. Like I did it in this GDKP just now,
yeah.
and these guys are a bunch of retards.
And here's the second one. The second one comes at about a minute, so like, and then I'm procking around there, so yeah, it's gonna be either, if we want to be super optimal, like either after the second one, which doesn't feel good, or just like right when he's positioned. I don't know. Because we're moving him, it doesn't seem like we have a whole lot of optimal bloodlust options in regards to
Well,
trinket
but
and procs.
well, but the thing is as long as people aren't hitting him when he's moving, they're not going to proc it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But people who don't have proc trinkets can lay into him a little bit. It's splitting hairs, so it doesn't
Yeah,
matter.
like it's real small, but like I said, I would say that either on the pole right when he's positioned, or after like the first knockup, just to get it going as soon as possible. But yeah, outside of that, I don't think there's like a perfect time to do it, just as early as we can. Any questions about Ignis? Okay. Moving on, we have XTD, or Deconstructor, whatever you want to call it. So my first note is like our bomb execution was a little bit sloppy. We called light goes right, and as we can see, our first searing light goes left. Now, this is something that I brought up earlier, but I don't know if everybody was necessarily in here for it. We see the light go left, and then gravity bomb comes out. Person who gets gravity bomb has good instincts here, and goes right to adjust. But then what they do is they turn around and go left. So that's just like, the one thing I want to bring up about that is if you see something go awry, feel free to take it upon yourself to make the proper adjustment uh, to make it happen, basically. Because what ended up happening, I counted it out, it was like the person with gravity bomb here was moving around and not casting for like 8 seconds because of that. So don't focus too much on like the assignment, and just make sure that you're focusing on going the opposite direction, with the bombs. I know that gets hairy towards the middle. So that's about all I had regarding that. Also, if you're ranged and you get the either of the bombs, don't do what I did. So I got out here, Searing Light finishes, and then I just stand here. I cast 1, 2, 3, 4 Arcane Blasts, and then I do an Arcane Missiles, and then I go in. That makes the next person have to adjust, right? So once you see that it's off, come back in and put yourself in the spot to make things work. You'll notice that because things got hairy with the bombs over here, someone's running across the raid, and then that ends up doing, cascading into like more and more damage than it needed to be. All right. Heart comes out with some fanfare. We're bloodlusting. We're pumping. Big numbers are going up. I believe ads come out right about now. And then I will turn and look at these ads here. Yep. So here's something that I noticed and I wanted to talk about real quick. I noticed that someone threw a stun on this bomb. I'm not sure that we should do that.
That might have been Sethun's intercept.
Okay.
And I mean, I can completely turn it off, but
You could
it's what it
toggle it.
uses. Yeah.
Yeah. That's how he gets in quick and starts doing his Fellstorm, right?
Yeah.
Okay. The reason why it's like not necessarily good is because when it's
No, it
stunned,
disproportions to the wave. I know, because I
yeah,
caught it.
yeah. I think you can turn off
Yeah, I can turn off the
the
intercept.
you can turn off the auto cast, and if you do that, then you can like
Yeah,
manually cast
just
it when you
time
need
it.
it,
Yep.
or manually cast it targeting like something next to it. But yeah, that's just something that I noticed that we just don't want to be doing. So if anyone is, throwing stuns because they've seen it stunned, don't do that. I will be better about just Frost Nova here. I didn't know exactly what health looked like. These bombs have effectively 25,000 health. That's nothing at all. That's one arcane missile barrage. That's a couple of arcane blasts. So the range should be able to handle the mega pack here. So from a mage perspective, we just need to be hitting Frost Nova on these scrap bots so that they get rooted, so that the rest of these bots have time, and then they all just blow up. I know that in Aqua's group in tens, Xander did a lot of work with Shadow Fury and made it like easy peasy, lemon squeezy. So we might look at doing that again because if you have an AoE stun, it just stops them all. So went a little bit too far away with that. Did anyone have any questions on XT? All right. One last thing regarding XT's hard mode. We did like some napkin math, and raid DPS is gonna have to be like around or over 175,000 in order to clear that. So just to give you an idea on the timeline of how long that's going to take, we did about 145,000 average to XT Deconstructor on Thursday. Okay, cool. The next boss is Iron Council, but we've already covered that, so I'm going to skip over. All right, next one's Kolagarn. Does anyone have anything that they want specifically pointed out? Because this one was pretty much just like it was real simple.
Yeah, we should kill the other arm at the very end because it's getting cleaved the entire time and gets down to like 20 or 30% health, and we can just kill that instead of doing the extra 2.5 to the body.
Yeah. So
Can also get an achievement from it.
Yeah. So yeah, so since the arm is okay, so this is something I wanted to bring up with I-beams. I think personally that the ranged DPS, the casters in particular, should be a little bit more uh, spread out. And the reason why, I'll actually highlight here, like right here, a bunch of people are bunched up, and now we all feel like we might have to run, right? So everyone's watching that real tight. There's a bunch of people running around during Lust. If we're a little bit more spread out, both vertically, so like from front to back and horizontally, we're going to mitigate that quite a bit. But did anyone else have any other questions about Kolagarn? Once again, this was a very straightforward. We one pulled it. There weren't any real issues. It was a really clean fight. So it's just one little nitpick, like especially here, right? Like casters were basically in two groups, which means that half of the caster group is about to run here when those come up. So all right, that's Kolagarn. We already briefly went over Cat Lady. Did anyone have any like questions of their own about Cat Lady?
Did we ever figure out if stunning it stopped the circle or no? I know that was like being talked
Yeah.
about.
As far as I'm aware, we did not.
Uh,
Um, once we got the yips out, we two pulled this. Once again, just watch your AoE to start so that you can avoid being one of the
Activated.
DPS at the yeah, one of the DPS that dies in the first 20 seconds of the fight because they ripped aggro off the tank. Aqua mentioned this earlier. I don't know if everyone was in here for it, but he said that the tanks are having to play this opener incredibly defensively, and what that means is they are not doing a ton of threat. So we just got to make sure we're watching our threat uh, on the opening of this fight. Other than that, it looked like a pretty clean execution. So, with the exception of just like a little bit of threat issues at the beginning. All right. Next we have Hodier. Does anyone have questions about Hodier that we want to pay attention to or have answered before we start watching the poll? Okay. There is a way to mark like the mages. We don't see them in the actual flash freeze. So, or let me rephrase. We actually do see the marks depending on your bar setup. inside the flash freeze, so it's possible that we can get a macro to where we can like mark the priority targets for this opener for flash freeze knockouts. We do eventually want to get them all out though, because we want all of the buffs to be available. Excuse me. A lot of people mentioned that they didn't really see the campfires go out. The campfire went out over here? Did anyone catch what the particle effect looks like so you don't have to look for the actual fire? I'll run it back and play it again. So it just went off. Did anyone catch what it looked like? It's right here. I'm going to try to catch the frame. Right here. It looks like consecration going down. So if you see that happening anywhere in the arena, run over to it, and it will give that call out for everyone else to get near you. So that's what you want to look out for as far as particle effects. I know it's a lot. But, you know, that's just like one extra thing that you can keep your eye on to maximize your throughput on this fight, because hard mode for this fight is just kill him fast. So there's no difference between what you're seeing here in hard mode, except his health goes down faster, and that's literally it. Does anyone have any questions about like the buffs or anything like that? Okay. Yeah, outside of just making sure that we're getting as stacked as we can on our buffs where we can get them, and optimizing our DPS. That's really all that can be said about getting this guy killed faster. I could work on doing stuff like getting in these beams of light. I think if we also work on like getting those flash freezes killed faster, that will also help. A fair bit of that's going to be just on ranged, making sure that happens. So that's all I had there. And then I think that's actually it, because next up is Thorum, which we already covered regarding the hard mode changes. So I'm going to open it up. Did anyone have any like general questions or stuff like that? All right. Cool beans. Well, hey, thanks for coming out, everyone. That's all I had. Earman, Aqua, Journey. Any final parting thoughts?
Did everyone find this useful? That's my main concern, because this was a lot of effort from Sarah and from Earman, and I want to make sure that you guys are actually finding this useful before I ask him to do it again.
I thought it was useful.
I enjoyed reviewing the hard mode stuff ahead of time, which is helpful. Makes it less confusing, kind of gives you an idea of what to expect, which is nice.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, and this is just, you know, there's so much right now because it's like totally okay and understandable that we're not doing everything right first week, you know.
Yep.
So if we do this more, there will be less to like have to do. um, I just love for it to be like a spot where if anybody wants to come in and be like, I don't know how to do this boss better, we can try to figure it out together. You know, it doesn't
Yeah.
have to be like totally we know everything. Just
Hmm.
we're just trying to improve.
Yep.
That's it.
I think for future like Sunday log review stuff, since we basically covered the basics, the non-hard modes of all the fights, we'll be doing, if there's hard modes that we're going to be pulling new, I'll probably put together some work on that, and then yeah, like Yerman said, it'll just be kind of like an open time where you can get with me and him, and we'll like just look at like how can you parse better, how can you do better.
Yeah. Or if there's anything you want to bring up where you're like, hey, I think we're not doing this right, then we'll go over it with you.
Yep. All right, cool. Well, yeah, that's all I had. So thanks for coming out, everyone. I will be doing a quick little edit of this and posting it to YouTube and posting it into general for anyone who didn't make it, or if anyone who's here but didn't want to, might want a refresher before Tuesday.